Hi, welcome to another video and welcome to my shed, of course. That's where the magic happens. Haha. Right, a debrief video. Okay, now this is about the camp that I just done. The solo camp with the full moon, the fire, etc. The one I done last week. What I like to do is every time I do an overnight video, I like to follow up with a debrief video. For those of you who aren't aware what a debrief is, it's just a look back on some of the things that we could learn from, okay, which is what happened before. So, okay, we're going to deconstruct the film just quickly and go through some of the things which I've noted down in my book, what needed addressing, and this is going to be in order from how the video happened. All right. So the first thing on the list I wrote down was the sleep area. Now, choosing the sleep area. Once I thought I found the right place, what I should have done was, yep, confirmed it. That's exactly where I want to put the tent. Right, now, look at the base where it's going to be seated and clear the floor. Didn't do that for some unknown reason. I do want to do bashes. It's like a second instinct to just do it. But for tents, I don't really do a lot of tent camping at all. I was so wrapped up with the location of where I wanted to put the tent for the best scenery and all the rest of it, I just failed to clear the floor. Now what that meant was I put the tent up, I got inside and oh god, look at it all. There's like holly bits sticking up everywhere and stones and the rest of it. So I had to get my hands and knees with my torch and just clear the whole area. Okay, I put my ground sheet down, which was very thin, and then I put my sleeping inflating pads on top of that. Now if it was a bit of a rush and I didn't have time to do that, what could have happened is I put the ground mats, the air mats down, and they would have punctured, and that's a bit dodgy, you know, because as a lot of us know by now, you need some insulation between your body and the ground. Okay, very, very important. So even though it appears to be a minor oversight, it could be quite serious. All right. Yeah, when you consider when you're out in the middle of nowhere on your own and you make little mistakes like that, they could turn into big problems. Right. So it's an important lesson for me, and hopefully you guys take note as well and take heed from the mistakes that I made. Before we carry on, just quickly, I'm not a professional, I'm not an expert, I'm just enthusiastic. I'm going to try things, okay, and I'll make mistakes like everyone else. All right, and that's the importance of these debrief videos that I started to do on YouTube. Just tells people, you know, this is what I've done wrong, please don't make the same mistake. All right. Okay. Camping on flat ground, on level ground. Originally, when I arrived on site, I found a location which was flat and perfect. The setup I wanted to do was to hang my tent suspended by two trees via a ridgeline. Now, the original location, which I thought was excellent because it's flat and level, it was about 30-foot difference between the trees. Now, you know, putting the paracord tight ridgeline that length and hanging a tent over there which is staked into the ground and pulling a lot of downward force into the ground, it might be a bit of a problem, because my experience with paracord over the years is when it's tight over time, especially when it's wet, it tends to stretch a little bit. Alright, it's important that it stretches. It's design purpose. When you're on the parachute, it's supposed to have a little bit of give in it. I think it's around 10%, so you have to bear that in mind. Okay, so I overlooked that, and as I said earlier, I moved to a different location which I didn't consider thoroughly, and it was in a bit of a slope. It wasn't a lot, it was, I don't know what sort of gradient it was, but it's a slight slope. But it was enough for when I had my ground sheet down and I had my two air mats, which were elastic banded, as it were, loosely, not tightly, loosely together. One mat was on top of each other, and my sleeping bag I was in, I slid down on the top mat, the mat directly underneath me slid down, and the one that was contacting the ground sheet stayed where it was. So I'd an air mat there, an air mat there, and then I was there, and it was just ridiculous. My feet was touching the end of the tent, and you know, it's condensation everywhere, which we're going to come to at the end of the video. And I just had a really, really, really bad night's sleep. So a big lesson, okay? No matter where you think, you know, the ideal spot is, I think you have to put it in priorities. All right, don't try and find someone that looks lovely. The most important thing is obviously widowmakers, no dead trees in the vicinity, and level ground. They're your two priorities. Everything else is aesthetics, right? Close to a stream, pretty scenery, whatever, a tree stump for a coffee table, or whatever you want to do. For me, them two key important notes to remember are widowmakers and flat level ground. Okay, that's something I'm definitely going to be paying more attention of in the future after what I just experienced, of course. Using that little gel stove, the M71 stove that I was using. Now that's the first time I've ever used that. Okay, usually I do like a dry run at home in the garden, but these things have had so many good write-ups and reviews, I just thought, okay, I'll just take it out. And if it fails, I've got a new one wrapped up anyway. And if it did come to it, I went back to the vehicle with my fire kit. So it's not really a problem, okay? It wasn't if I was, you know, hundreds of miles from anyone and it was raining all the time. It could have been different. But I just want anyone who has used these M71 gel stoves, if you can put some information in the comments about their findings. A friend of mine, Steve, who's into his Land Rovers on Instagram, he said he had a batch of them and a lot of them hardly had any gel in. So I don't know what happened there. My guesses are they were probably old. They were probably stored in warm conditions where they've just evaporated. They might have been punctured. I don't know. That's why I want you guys, if you've got any experience at all, good or bad, can you please put them in the comments below this video so anyone else watching this can scroll down and check out what you guys have put in, okay? So I've got a lot to learn about those. For me, they were burning for too long and not fierce enough. And as I said, what I was finding was after a few minutes of it, the flames got really low, and I had to keep stirring the gel up, and it just sort of reignited again. So I don't know if that's normal or I've got an iffy batch. I don't know. It's just a field test, okay? And what else was there? Yep, the last note on the pad was the Lavu. Obviously, it's waterproofed on the outside with Fab Seal Gold. Very, very good, because not one drop of water got through from the outside, but condensation was everywhere inside. All of the tent to the touch was wet with very, very fine vapour mist condensation. Now, obviously, that was down to poor ventilation. Now, any of you guys, again, if you can put in the comments below, who have got a Lavu tent and used it in the same fashion that I did, completely closed, with heavy rain forecast, you know, where are you going to vent it? You know, you can't really vent it from the bottom, especially where I was, because the rain would have just come down the hill and just got inside the tent. You can't sort of vent it where the armholes are, about midpoint on the sides, because you open them up and the rain's going to come in. You can't really open the buttons on one front because rain will come in. So I'm thinking, on the front of it, it's a cheap, good, basic budget tent that you just button together and sleep in it is fine. But you know, for me, after my experience, I didn't really rate it that much, purely because the ventilation. You look at modern tents, synthetic tents, you know, they have like I don't know, small little roofs, and you put like some material that flexes, and you've got a gap underneath for ventilation, so the rain will come down, but it still get that ventilation. The Lavu hasn't got that. Obviously, I can imagine you could mod it, but you know, something like this, you know, it's heavily modded. If you just get a bog standard cheap £20–30 one and don't do anything to it, you might come unstuck. I don't know. This is just my experience from one night in one. And as I said, I just woke up and there was condensation everywhere. And as I said, I was frightened to open anything because it was going to let wind and rain in and get my sleeping bag wet and all of my kit wet. So let me know, good or bad, I'm not fussed, it all helps, okay, in the comments below. And that's pretty much it from the debrief video from the overnighter I done last week. The link to that video I'm going to put underneath this, so if you want to recap and watch some of that, then you can just click underneath this video and watch it at your leisure. And that's pretty much it from the debrief video. So thanks for watching, thanks for your support, stay funky.